Up until this point, we've looked at different examples of some blend modes in the darken group and the lighten group. What we want to look at is an example of how we can use some of the blend modes in the contrast group. I'm working with a document called stlucia.psd, which is available in your resources folder. Now, this is a common problem with landscape photography. When you have content set in the background here, oftentimes it'll appear somewhat hazy and you'll lose a lot of detail. If you want to bring that detail out, you can do that by using a combination of the dodge and burn tools. But what I'm going to do is show you a quick technique to use something like a dodge burn layer to essentially achieve the same results with a lot less work. So what we want to do is create a new layer here. I'm going to come over to the Layers panel, and on the Macintosh, you want to hold down the Option key. That would be the Alt key on Windows when clicking the Create New Layer button to open up this dialog box. Let's go ahead and name this layer Dodge_Burn. What we're also going to do is set the blending mode to one of the contrast blending mode options. We're going to set it to Overlay. What we're also going to do is fill the layer with the overlay neutral color, which is 50% gray. The neutral color, remember, is the color that gets ignored. So if you go ahead and click OK, you'll notice you create a new layer. It's filled with 50% gray, but it doesn't really make a difference to your photograph because the blend mode is set to overlay, telling the layer to ignore the gray color values. If you turn off the visibility of the background layer, you will see gray content. But what we want to do now is we want to paint with either black or white. If we paint with black, we're going to darken up the pixels in this image. And if we paint with white, we'll brighten up the pixels in this image. So again, this is a much quicker and easier way opposed to using the dodge and burn tools, which are great tools, but in this case, we can get away with this technique. So go ahead and select your brush tool. B is the keyboard shortcut. You can select a brush size of your choice. I'm going to go with something around 70. And you want to make sure that it's a softer edge brush. And I'm going to set the opacity to 30%. You can press 3 on your keyboard to activate that, meaning you're not going to be painting with 100% black, which you don't want to do. The effect will be too extreme. So now what you want to do is just take broad brush strokes and paint over the sky and also over the mountains. Now you would spend a lot more time on this in comparison to what I'm doing, but I just want to give you a general idea as to how you can quickly and easily add contrast to an image. So I'm just going to do this over the sky until I'm happy with the results. So once you're done, what you can do is come over and turn off the visibility of the background layer, and you can see all the gray values you added to the image. If you now want to brighten up the image, what you can do is paint with white. You'll notice right now I have the default color selected, black and white. If you press X on your keyboard, you'll kind of exchange the foreground and background color. So now I'm painting with white. I'm going to reduce the opacity to 10% by pressing the 1 key on the keyboard. Then again, with those broad brush strokes, I'm just going to paint over the foreground elements to brighten them up ever so slightly, just adding a little bit more detail to this image. So again, making those broad brush strokes. Once you're done, again, you can turn off the visibility of the background layer, and you can see we have lighter pixel values here than the 50% gray, which in turn changes the appearance of the image. To see that, you can turn off the visibility of the dodge burn layer, and you can see we have a lot less contrast, a little more dull looking. When we turn it back on, we have more contrast. And again, if you feel that the contrast is too strong, because it's on its own layer, you can always reduce the opacity, reducing the overall effect. So this is just a quick, easy technique to use some of these contrast blending modes, in this case, to create dodge and burn effects without the hassle of having to use the tools. Simply paint gray values within a layer and set the blending mode to one of the contrast blending modes. In this case, we set it to overlay.